positioned Europe to become the first climate-neutral continent in the world by 2050.
Many of us have heard about the European Green Deal and the ambitious target it sets for Europe to be climate neutral by 2050. But did you know that the European production and use of energy account for more than 75% of the EU's greenhouse gas emissions? This is why decarbonising the EU's energy system is critical to reach our 2030 climate objectives and the EU's long-term strategy of achieving carbon neutrality by 2050.
Most importantly is the works which are going to be done.
One of the key initiatives of the European Green Deal prioritises energy efficiency and improving the energy performance of our buildings while developing a power sector based largely on renewable sources. This, in turn, will have an impact across the entire value chains in sectors such as energy, transport, construction and renovation, helping to create sustainable, local and well-paid jobs. So, today we are going to visit the School of Engineering in Dundalk Institute of Technology to learn about the courses they offer which will help us meet our climate targets in the future.
Tom Dooley, I'm the Head of School of Engineering in Dundalk Institute of Technology, and from the point of view of, I suppose, engineering and energy, I always look at it from a historical perspective. In that for millions and millions of years we have had solar heat heating the planet, storing energy in peat bogs, storing energy in our fossil fuels. But I suppose in the last 300 to 400 years we have been slowly exhausting all of that stored heat. So I suppose and it is one way of looking at, you know, why we've arrived where we're at and the role of engineers in the future and so on. We can't rely on that past solar heat anymore, it's gone. So what we need to do now is look at the solar heat hitting the planet that gives us our wind, gives us our waves, gives us our solar energy. And we need to begin, and it is really refreshing to see the young people of the planet and the young people of Ireland starting to demand climate change. But we also need them as engineers and scientists to give effect to this climate change. And that's where the School of Engineering comes in. What we offer here in the School of Engineering are programs in 3 departments: the Department of Mechanical and Electronic Engineering, the Department of Civil Engineering and Engineering Trades, and the Department of the Built Environment. These programs are at both ordinary degree level and honours degree level, so you can come in at the level that suits you and you can progress right on through the levels. When you complete those programs, whether they're in any of the 3 departments, you can then move on to our postgraduate programs, which are oriented towards meeting the challenges of the European Green Deal, meeting the challenges of society in terms of energy and the environment. We've got postgraduate diplomas in solar energy, postgraduate diplomas in bioenergy, postgraduate diplomas in marine renewables, and postgraduate diplomas in wind energy. We've got master's programs in wind energy, bioenergy, solar energy and marine renewables. And we also have the capability to do PhDs. We're members of the Marai Research Centre and we cooperate with 13 other universities and institutions around the country as part of that centre.
I'm Tom Kelly and I'm a lecturer and researcher here in the Dundalk Institute of Technology with the Department of Civil Engineering. And my own area that I mainly research and teach in is the topics of renewable energy. And when we talk about renewable energy, I imagine most people picture rows of wind turbines. Maybe some people think of solar panels, and maybe some other people indeed think of places like Ardnacrusha hydro plant. My own particular area, however, is one that's less well developed, which is the area of marine renewable energy. So what I want to describe today is what that is and how that might play a role in the European Green Deal programme. So marine energy, again, is quite a broad topic. There are various areas in it. There's energy available from the waves in the marine environment. There's energy available from the tidal flows. And probably the most familiar one to people will be the idea of offshore wind, so wind that's located in the marine environment. Again, my own particular area of expertise is in the wave environment. And I'm often asked, why would we be interested in wave energy? And there are various reasons that it makes great sense for Ireland to be interested in wave energy, and also how it can play into the Green Deal. One thing I would point out is that we're an island nation, and you'll hear people in the marine industry talking about the real map of Ireland. Well, the real map of Ireland is not just our land, it's also our territorial waters. And our territorial waters are in fact 10 times a bigger area than the land mass. So it's a great opportunity. Here we are on the west coast of Europe with a very strong Atlantic wave regime, with plenty of space and plenty of opportunity. A nice thing about how wave energy works and how it can complement existing things like wind energy are that conditions that suit the generation of wave energy don't actually happen the same time as what happens for wind energy. That means that those times when it's not windy and we can't make wind energy to satisfy our needs, we could produce energy from waves that can complement each other in that way. Studies have shown that the potential for wave energy in Irish waters is of the order of 15 times the amount of electricity that we use every year in this country. On top of that, there is tidal energy. Tidal energy, not as much, but there's still a very great resource there that's equivalent to something in the region of what we use every year in this country. Not all of that's accessible, but there's a great opportunity there for us. Offshore wind, which is probably the next big move, I think, in the renewable space and into the offshore space, has been very strongly targeted, and very strong targets have been set by the Irish government. At the moment, there's a target of setting 5 gigawatts of offshore wind install in Irish waters by 2030. Now, that number may not mean much to you, but it's the same as all the onshore wind that's currently installed in Ireland. So I think you can see that the potential is great to provide clean, green energy to help with our Green Deal commitments. One other point about the Green Deal, though, that I think is important is the idea of the fair and just transition, that no one gets left behind. And how Marines can play a role in this, I feel, is that the good locations for marine energy, this is not just in Ireland, it's across the world, in fact, across all of Europe and along the seaboard of the Atlantic Ocean, those good areas tend to be areas where there aren't good opportunities for jobs, where there's a bit of more social deprivation, where there aren't those industries that give people opportunities to advance. So I would like to think that by having a developing marine industry, that we can give those people those opportunities and give them that fair deal for everyone in Europe.
Hello, my name is Owen Clancy. I want to talk briefly about solar energy. I am teaching and doing research in the area of solar technology. Now, solar energy basically drives all other forms of renewable energy. Wind energy, water energy comes basically from solar energy. Likewise, biomass. Over millions of years, vegetation breaks down under pressure, produces oil, gas, etc. And we're at the very fortunate position that we're actually 93 million miles from the sun, and we're actually going on a Goldilocks orbit. So we're neither too far or too close, and that means we get an average temperature of about 15 degrees C on the Earth. Now, if we compare the Earth's temperature to the Moon's temperature, there's much less fluctuation from day to night on the Earth as there is on the Moon, and that means that we have a very good temperature, very conditions for developing, fostering life on Earth. Now, there are a number of main forms of solar energy. End use of solar energy, typically we'd use solar thermal systems for hot water. We'd have solar panels on the roof of a building. They would produce hot water for a building. We could have solar concentrated energy, which basically generates steam, which is expanded to a turbine, produce power, or we could have photovoltaic panels which use direct current power, which is then used, converted AC power, which is then also used in buildings, etc. So those are the main forms of energy. We could also have passive solar energy. So basically your typical building will by default have windows facing south, and the energy can come in will basically heat the building. So if you have a very well insulated building with low air change rates, you can use that energy then to heat the building up, maintain the temperature of the building throughout the year. So we should be moving more towards solar energy. We could actually have 100% of our power from solar energy. We're still maybe less than 10% approximately is from solar. So there's a huge potential there to move in that direction. The main holding drawbacks are the initial cost of power. But obviously once you've got the system installed, the energy itself is costs nothing.
Hi everyone, my name is Wayne Doherty and I'm a lecturer that teaches the bioenergy modules on the renewable energy programs here at DKIT. In this video I'm going to talk about bioenergy in general, explain what it is, and also how it can help to achieve the targets of the new European Green Deal. So to start, it's useful just to look at the 2020 targets and how we did with those. So in Ireland, back in 2017, the economy was growing, so that means that energy demand is on the increase. We've done fairly well in terms of renewable energy, but we're still heavily dependent on fossil fuels, with over 90% of our energy use coming from fossil fuels. We've made great progress in terms of renewable electricity, and that's mainly wind farms. The other two targets, the renewable heat and the renewable transport, we're not doing well on those. So that's where bioenergy could play a big role for our future targets. So because we are expected to meet the electricity target, the 2020 target, we're okay on that. But for heat and transport, we will have to pay heavy EU fines in the next number of years. So things need to change, and bioenergy could play a role in that. So what do we use our energy for? So about 1/3 of the energy is used for electricity, another third in transport, so that's your petrol and diesel to fuel the vehicles, and another third in heat, so heating of buildings. So to date we focused on one of those and we've neglected the other 2/3, transport and heat. So really we need to start working on those. Where do the emissions come from? About 60% of our emissions, or greenhouse gas emissions, are from energy. So that's why we're always talking about energy in terms of climate change. An interesting fact that you may not be aware is that 32% of Ireland's emission comes from agriculture alone. Now that is the way we farm in Ireland. It's due to livestock numbers. Okay, so that would be another benefit if we move towards bioenergy. Farmers will change to grow energy crops, and that will in turn reduce emissions from that sector. So that would be another positive effect. So what is biomass? What is bioenergy? So it helps to look at the types of biomass available in Ireland. So we're talking about wood, so wood from forests, waste wood from sawmills, sawdust, old pallets, energy crops, like I mentioned, agriculture, so we can grow willow trees. So these trees are fast-growing trees. You can harvest them every 2 to 3 years, so it's not the willow trees that you'd be familiar with. Grass as well is considered a biomass. You can put grass into a digester on a farm and you'll get a combustible gas which we can then use for energy. So there's lots of different types. The technology, I'll talk a little bit about technologies now. So the technology that you'd be most familiar with would be combustion technology. So everybody's seen wood stoves that are used to heat a single room in a house. A step up from that would be a wood pellet boiler. So that would heat an entire house. Step up again from that, we've got industrial scale systems. So we've got a peat-fired power plant down in Edenderry in County Offaly. And they, for the past 10 years, have been burning biomass along with the peat. So at the moment, they've brought that up to 40% of the fuel that they put in is biomass, and the remainder is peat. So you can produce electricity from that. So combustion limits what we can do. We can just get electricity from it. There's other technologies. If we want to reach the transport and the heat sectors, we have to use other technologies. So one of those technologies is known as gasification. It's called gasification because you feed in your wood fuel or whatever it is, and you turn it into a combustible gas. So the gas is made up of hydrogen, carbon monoxide, and methane. So why would we do that? The reason is we can reach the other sectors, like, for example, transport. You can buy what's called natural gas vehicles. There's I couldn't get a recent figure, but back in 2010 there was 12 million of these vehicles around the world. So it's a widely used technology. It's just in Ireland we don't really have them, so we're not familiar with them. But we could generate renewable gas, feed it into the grid, into our natural gas grid, and then put it into our vehicles. So that's in addition to electric vehicles and liquid biofuels and so on. It would help us reach those new targets. Another way of doing that would be anaerobic digestion. As I mentioned earlier, farm-based digesters, you can get a renewable gas from that as well, and it can be upgraded and fed into the grid.
The European Green Deal is the blueprint for transformational change, creating new opportunities for innovation, investment and jobs.
The next decade, and indeed the next couple of decades, are going to be an era of revolutionary change in all the energy areas, and young people, and especially yourselves who are attending school now and coming out of school, are going to be the agents of that change. We would be delighted to welcome you to the programs that we have in Dundalk Institute of Technology, to learn the fundamentals of engineering, to work with our experts whom you've heard from there in bioenergy, in marine renewables, in wind energy, and in solar energy, so that you have the engineering skills to be able to build the future that's needed in this country. So again, I hope you've got enough information from us about the undergraduate programs that we offer in the Department of Mechanical and Electrical, that we offer in the Department of Civil Engineering and Engineering Trades, and that we offer in the Department of the Built Environment. You can visit our website, www.dkit.ie, and go to browse the engineering programs there. Come and talk to us, but fundamentally, look at engineering as a career to build the future of the country.
Europe Direct Clonus would like to thank Tom Dooley, Tom Kelly, Owen Clancy and Wayne Doherty from Dundalk Institute of Technology for talking to us about the European Green Deal and the opportunities available in DKIT to help us upskill and meet the challenges of the future. Based in Clonus Library, Europe Direct is a regional contact point which connects you, the citizen, to the EU institutions. This is where you can find answers to your questions about the European Union. We stock a wide range of publications on the EU and provide a free phone line to the Europe Direct contact point in Brussels. Throughout the year, we organise numerous events to promote debate and discussion on the priorities of the EU. You can contact us at eudirect@monaghancoco.ie or follow us on social media, Facebook at EU Direct Clonus and on Twitter at ED Clonus.